when I started working in real estate, parang, this is it. Every time we developed a new building, the sense of fulfillment, the sense of accomplishment. And it's a strange analogy, but I guess for sometimes for men, I'd like to say it's like you gave birth.
Oh,
wow.
Because like you had a baby.
In our case, this building, right?
Wow, that's a nice analogy. Para kang babaeng nanganak. Wala kang womb.
Yes.
Do you think you'd be where you are now if you didn't go through that door that your dad left open? Do you ever wonder?
So, people sometimes ask me, what's one of the biggest regrets you have? And I have to say, I would have liked to work outside the family business, even if it was just for a few years, to experience that. Kasi di ko talaga alam. I've always worked within a family setting, so I don't know what it's like.
It's a question.
Yeah, it's a question mark, and it's never going to be answered.
Do you drive an electric car?
I just bought one.
Okay.
My very first
Kasi
EV.
sabi ko parang test ito
Yeah.
Do you practice what you preach?
And I charge it here in a
building
in
that
an EV charger that is powered by renewable.
Yeah. Green building is reshaping real estate, with 40% of carbon emissions coming from construction and development. It's a bold move toward a healthier planet. These eco-friendly structures save energy, lower carbon footprints, and improve our quality of life. Sa pamamagitan ng sustainable real estate, we are reshaping our cities and creating healthier communities for everyone. Kilalanin natin si Raymond Rufino, CEO ng NEO, ang kumpanyang nangunguna sa green building practices at sustainable real estate. Ako si Ces Oreña-Drilon at ito ang Usapang Bilyonaryo. Let's talk about the change of name.
Sure.
Why NEO?
So,
from net.
Sure. Our organization has been around since the late 90s when we built our first building. However, about 5 years ago, there was a change in partnership. And because of the change in partnership, we had to also change the name and the brands that we were using. So, I was thinking, okay, what kind of new name can we come up with for the group? Because it was formerly the Net Group, right? And all of the buildings had a Net name. So I was thinking about a name that would be forward-looking, something that would be more, I would say, fresh, something more modern. And so NEO was born 5 years ago, just about 5 years ago.
5 years ago, and you're considered a leader in green building. But this perhaps didn't start just 5 years ago. This was how far back do you trace this sustainability mindset?
Oh, wow. I think when I was very young, I love nature. And so I've always appreciated the beauty of nature. And growing up, I was very aware of the damage we were doing to the planet. You'd always see it, the media, over the years.
Like what age?
I would say, siguro, even when as a young age, maybe in the 80s, I was already seeing a lot of the challenges brought about by too much waste, too much air pollution. And that gained in the 90s, it was really getting a lot of traction. So there was always this, I would say, worry, if I could use the word worry, that
anxiety.
The anxiety that, wow, what are we doing to the world?
Because it's really the younger generation that I guess feel it more than the older ones who are doing all the damage.
Because this is the world that you are going to live in, you're going to raise a family. And so at that young age, I was already having this worry and anxiety. But I guess my journey in green building and sustainability really began in Colombia when I took my master's in real estate back in 2005. That's where my eyes opened up. Because I was already working for a few years in the family business. But when I was in my program, wow, the professors were really challenging us. They said, if you're a developer and you're going to build projects that would be around for 50, 75 years, you have to think about the impact you're going to make on the communities, the cities that you will be developing in. Because ultimately, if we don't make our buildings more sustainable, we are all adding to that big environmental problem. So I came home in 2006 and said, wow, I really need to bring this back to my business, to our business back then. And so when my father asked me, Raymond, what's the biggest thing you learned in your expensive, education in abroad?
Which was paid by your dad?
Paid for by my dad.
Okay.
I said, let's do green building and sustainability. Let's make this one of the key focus areas, and if we can, make it part of the DNA of our company. He was very supportive. In fact, he fully embraced it and really started to push internally. He said, no, yeah, we have to really push because my dad, we like to joke internally, my dad's like the engineer. It's always about efficiency. Me naman, I'm kind of like an architect. I'm more
The
about
design.
like creative. I look at things like that.
How did he come into seeing the potential of it? Was he partners with Metro Pacific at that
Yes.
time?
So he was part of the Metro Pacific Consortium that successfully won the bid for Bonifacio Global City. So he was part of the
vision.
core team that looked at this entire military fort back then and said, what are we going to create? So the vision to create this world-class, city that all Filipinos could be proud of, where life as it should be was one of their marketing slogans, said, look, I want to develop in Bonifacio Global City because I believe in the vision, and this is going to be really a fantastic city of the future for the country.
So when Metro Pac was having financial difficulties coming up with a balance, right, of the payment to the government, it was selling parcels of land.
Yes, he was actually in charge of selling. In the early days, he was in charge of selling the parcels.
Okay.
That was one of his key roles. That's why he knows the city so well, because a lot of the people bought their lots from him. So that was his early sort of direction. And slowly, the momentum started to build. Then we said, let's do the second one, and then the third one, and the fourth one, and then history continued till now we're at the sixth and seventh buildings.
How old were you then
When the first building? So the first building was built, I was in my early 20s. Yeah.
And so was your path already very clear for you at that time? Was your dad grooming you to take over the business?
So my dad's philosophy when it came to us kids was, and we're three boys by the way, is that he encouraged us to work for the family business but did not force us to. So the analogy is the door is open and will always be open, but I'm not going to, shove you in the door. You decide if you want to walk in. And if you walk in, I will help you and I will support you. So I was the first one who said, I'm going to walk in that door. Yeah.
Okay.
Early on. So I never worked outside the family business. From outside of college, after college, I already worked for the family business. My two brothers decided to work outside first and then eventually joined the business. So now, it worked. I don't know if it's a good strategy to get your kids to work for the family business, but this gentle, open stance really worked. Now my two brothers, we all work together in the family business.
Walang competition?
One of the things that my dad consciously did was to make sure that he likes to call it swim lanes, right? So like pang sa pool, you have these
Kanya-kanyang
lanes.
lane.
Oo. So he says everyone has a clear lane.
Do you think you'd be where you are now if you didn't go through that door that your dad left open?
Great
Do you ever
question.
wonder?
So, people sometimes ask me, what's one of the biggest regrets you have? And I have to say, I would have liked to work outside the family business, even if it was just for a few years, to experience that. Kasi di ko talaga alam. I've always worked within a family setting, so I don't know what it's like.
It's a question mark.
Yeah, it's a question mark, and it's never going to be answered, unfortunately, because I've been so deep with the family business. I can't imagine working outside of it after all my life being here. So I think it would have been, I think, good for my growth. I think it would have been good exposure for me to have worked for another organization. So it's been, I guess, a family business that we've been doing ever since the post-war years. So we started in movie theaters, and then we really developed a lot of different things, which makes me, I guess, a third generation in the real estate development business.
Why did you come home? Why did you turn your back on that possibility?
The real answer, I had a girlfriend who said that I have to come home. And she's now my wife. So,
Well, thanks to her.
yes, and my dad also, after I had graduated from my master's program, that's when the real estate market was really starting to move up locally.
Jesus.
We had an amazing bull run. From that point onward was really I would say the golden years.
But did you work directly under your father, or
Yeah.
were there directly? Okay.
Directly, yeah.
Would he be a real boss, or sorry to use the word real boss?
Real
Parang
boss.
is he gentle? Is
Yes,
there
yeah.
accountable, or is he strict? What kind of a boss was he?
So my dad, if you get to know him, his style is really a gentle style. He is not the type. So if you have your stereotypical tough, let's say leader, icon of leadership, super, hard, tough, go-getter. So my
Hindi
dad
ganun.
is very passionate, very driven, but he has a very gentle approach about it. He doesn't like being forceful. He doesn't like being tough. But he when he needs to be, he can be. So there were moments when he would have to have serious conversations to teach me, to correct me, to guide me. And I guess in a lot of ways that influenced my style of leadership. I'm also of that, I would say, gentle school of leadership where do I need to raise my voice? Do I need to, make a big to-do every time just to get people motivated? I really felt, and I learned this from him, that if you can inspire people, they will work harder rather than out of fear. And I looked at a lot of the industries, and unfortunately, I didn't see myself feeling fulfilled, feeling that I was making a difference in a lot of those industries. Now, when I started working in real estate, parang, this is it. Because yes, it's a family business, and yes, it's in some ways comfortable and safe. But I also felt every time we developed a new building, the sense of fulfillment, the sense of accomplishment that you get from that process is, for me, unlike any other feeling. It's, I don't know, it's a strange analogy, but I guess for sometimes for men, I'd like to say it's like you gave birth.
Oh,
Diba?
wow. Like you had a baby.
Because it's a process, diba? And it's a process of ups and downs, and it's tough, and then it's easy, and then it's tough, and then sometimes you want to give up, and sometimes it's so painful, but then in the end, wow.
All the challenges.
You're a parent, and you have this
Baby.
this baby, or in our case, this building, right, which now is there and will be
That's
there.
a nice analogy.
And
Para kang babaeng nanganak. Wala kang womb.
Yes,
but
yes.
I guess, the closest.
That's the closest feeling for me. I think that's how we feel about it. So my peg has always been, after my time, dapat may impact. There should be a difference. There should be something measurable that I was able to do to make the world a better place. Kasi kung hindi, if it just stays the same, parang I passed through this world and I wasn't able to contribute. So everything I do now is kind of anchored on that. So I really want to focus on that difference and that impact.
We'll talk more about the changing real estate landscape when Usapang Bilyonaryo returns. Welcome back, and we're still talking to Raymond about NEO's innovative approach to sustainability. All right, so I recall you mentioning earlier you wanted something measurable,
Yes.
diba? Na parang you can claim this, but it may not be true. So
Yes.
is that one of the first things you decided you needed to do?
Yes. So in 2007, I became part of the Philippine Green Building Council. And one of the things that the council really focused on is green building rating tools. Because exactly what you're saying says, everyone will like to say that my building is green. Everyone's going to say, oh, my building, of
We can
course,
make
it's green and
claims.
sustainable, because that's what everybody wants, right? But we felt that for the public to know
Yeah.
truly whether a building is green or not, you have to have a rating or certification done by somebody else,
Yeah,
not
a
by
third
yourself.
party.
A third
Oo.
party, so that people know that, oh, talagang green ba yung building na yan? Yes, it is really a green
Pero
building.
teka, you're also a founder of that building,
Yes,
Green Building
Council.
Council.
Correct. As part of
Okay.
the founding group for that Green Building Council. It's part of my advocacy.
What you had to do was to get the ball rolling to get these things to happen. Wala
Yes.
kasi.
Wala.
Wala.
Wala. When we
So-
first started, it was
Okay.
so painful, Ces. We can't imagine the conversations we would have. It was not on the agenda. We would be begging and pleading for people to come to events, to give us funding for resources. You know, yung ibang events, naglalabas ako ng credit card ko, pambayad sa magagastos kasi
Talaga?
wala talaga.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you draw the...
Yes. So,
make it an independent...
the way that we did it is the Philippine Green Building Council is a multi-sector, multidisciplinary organization, right? It's got a lot of different people from the real estate sector there. When we wanted to put up the BERDE rating tool, which is Building for Ecologically Responsive Design Excellence, a committee was created within the council of professionals and said, we on the board of trustees or we as the other members cannot influence that committee. The committee has the sole purview to draft the rating tool.
Okay.
And then it goes through a process where it's now shared with the public, with members and the general public for comment and feedback, which is then again factored in by the the BERDE committee to create the version of the rating tool. So it's a combination of professionals drafting it, but with feedback and input from industry, before you get the final result. So that's what we did, because we didn't want any single person to be able to influence that. So like for me, I'm a developer, but I had nothing to do with the BERDE committee. So the BERDE rating tool now, when applied to a building, you have different stars. 1 star means good, you've made hit the minimum. If you're 4 stars, that means, wow, you're a leader for the Philippines. If you're 5 stars, world-class ka. Diba? So we have a star rating system. And so every time someone sees a building now, your question earlier, can a layman see a building and say, oh, green to? Now, you can't tell by looking at the building, but if you walk by the lobby and you see a
certificate,
BERDE rating sticker or logo that says it's, let's say, 5 stars, like our buildings, then you know this is a world-class green building.
Lahat ng NEO buildings, 5-star?
All 5 stars.
Okay.
All 7 are 5 stars.
But aside from BERDE, you also have the IFC stamp.
Zero carbon, yes.
Okay. IFC is the agency of the World Bank.
Correct, International Finance Corporation.
All right.
Yeah.
So are you the first that got this distinction?
Yes, so for a portfolio, so there have been buildings that have gotten the zero carbon certification, but as a portfolio, we were the first in the world to get the EDGE zero carbon certification.
For all 7 buildings?
For a portfolio of 7 buildings,
Wow.
yes.
Zero carbon talaga?
Yes, and not only zero carbon, so the Philippine Green Building Council also has Advancing Net Zero, which is a net zero rating tool naman. We're also 5 stars there for net zero under that rating tool. So we have 2 certifications for our net zero commitment and performance.
Okay, when you say net zero, all the power that you use in this building is from renewable.
Correct. Now try to break it down.
Sige.
It's 3 steps.
Okay.
The first step is you want to conserve your power. So you want to drive down how much power you're actually using, right? So in a building, you might say, oh, we have, very simple, energy conservation measures to make sure that lights, air conditioning, and things are turned off at the proper time and turned on at the proper time. The next thing is you need to optimize your building. So if you have old equipment that is no longer efficient, if you can replace that old pump or old motor to a more efficient type, you will also save power.
Okay.
So that is making sure your equipment is now optimized. You always want to make sure you're using highly efficient equipment and whatever systems in the building, right? So that's the second step. The third step is after you've reduced your power on the first two
Parang
steps.
maximum
So you've
efficiency
driven
na.
it down. And I think for edge, you have to be more than 40% energy savings. For advancing net zero 5 stars, I think you have to be more than 50% energy savings.
There's
There are
an industry computation
So
for
40
that.
to 50% energy reduction is what you need to achieve compared to the typical.
Okay.
And then with whatever you have left, only after you've done the first two, then you say, then I'm going to source my power either through
renewable.
on-site renewable, which is very difficult for office buildings. We have no space, right?
Yeah.
Or through purchasing renewable energy. So our partnership with Aboitiz Power is just that. So we purchase from them capacity from their Macban geothermal power plant, and that's producing so much power.
Yeah.
So much of that power is allocated for us.
Okay.
Is it direct? No.
No.
It goes into the grid
I
because
see.
the grid has to provide power to
Distribute
every. Yes.
So it still goes through Meralco.
It still goes to Meralco as the distribution. So
Okay.
we have a matching. We need so much power. They produce so much power. We match that.
When you get all these certification, mahal ba? I mean, do you shell out a lot of money to get to submit your building
Yes.
to all these exams,
So
examinations?
a lot of developers, they always say, to get my building certified or to go green is very
Hassle.
expensive. It's a very general, I guess, sentiment among the developers in the country.
And you might fail.
And you might fail. But
If you fail, what happens?
just do it again. Do it again. There's nothing to stop you from doing it again, right? So before, it used to be much more expensive to do a green building. Today, it does not cost you any more to build. If you're going to go for a 2 or 3 star building, it's zero cost premium.
What would you say as a leading developer to government, our legislators?
Yeah.
What can they do to make real estate developers, I think, more cognizant
Yes.
of the damage to the
Yeah.
environment that they're doing?
The message I would share is we've worked very hard since 2007 as a privately led initiative to push for greener buildings and more sustainable buildings. And there's been great momentum. In fact, a lot of the newer buildings are already green and more sustainable. The problem is there's only so much we can do as private sector. If we want to make more
Yeah.
of our
Yeah.
buildings green, the old stock and the new stock, we will really need to be tougher on mandatory requirements for owners and developers. Because if
So
it's
laws have to be passed.
ordinances at the very least. Because if you leave it to the private
Local
sector, we're
government.
able to do it, pero
Yeah, eh.
mabagal,
Oo.
mabagal. I mean, look, we are facing a climate crisis. This is, we cannot, baby steps will no longer do, slow pace will no longer do. We need to have really much faster adoption and much faster action. And legislation is the key. If cities can pass ordinances that raise the bar and can leverage rating tools like Verde or others to move developers and owners to design, build, and operate greener buildings, that's how we start to move the needle.
When we come back, we'll be talking about how Raymond Rufino achieves a work-life balance.
Welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Rain Musni. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey.
This is the most cost-effective mass transit measure that was adopted by the government.
We attribute our increase in Ecozone investments to the overall and strong performance of the Philippine economy.
Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Always on top.
Magandang gabi, ako po si Pinky Webb.
At ako naman si Corina Sanchez Rojas. Simulan na natin ang agenda.
Umarakata na ang campaign period para sa midterm elections.
Speaker Martin Romualdez at ilang mga kaalyado nahaharap sa patong-patong na reklamo sa ombudsman.
Inanata ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos sa mga kalaban sa politika sa isinagawang kick-off campaign rally.
Sa bawat issue may anggulo at ang balita may agenda.
You're back on Usapang Bilyonaryo and we're still talking to Raymond Rufino. Raymond, you said in one interview that you smile all the time. Masaya kang tao. Tama?
Yes, I am
Yeah.
actually. People always comment that I'm one of the most positive people that they encounter, and I'm happy that they feel that way.
Yeah, so it's easy siguro to have you as a boss.
Should ask my team.
And as a husband.
I hope so. I hope so. You know, I try not to be difficult. You know, I try not to be difficult.
Mababaw lang ba yung kaligayahan mo?
That's one of the secrets to life, right? So I've learned, excuse me, early on that sometimes you manage your expectations, and when you're able to find happiness in simple things, then you end up as a happier person. So yes, mababaw talaga yung kaligayahan.
Kagaya
ko.
ng example.
Traveling. I love to travel.
Uy, hindi mababaw yun. Mahirap yun gawin.
Traveling,
I mean, you need money.
Yeah, but traveling, whether it's local, international, so every trip that you take,
Discovering new places,
yeah, even
I
if
guess.
even if it's a car trip, I mean, I enjoy just traveling in general. Doesn't have to be to a fancy place, but just experiencing something new, going to a place you've never been before, that excites me.
I was surprised to learn that you read the scriptures before you go to bed.
Yes, I
Yeah?
do. I
Tell
do.
us, is there a typical day? Or,
My day's always different. So I like to say that when you're an entrepreneur, especially one in a family business, you're always wearing a different hat. You know, sometimes you're a problem solver,
Yeah.
sometimes you're a coach, sometimes you're a representative. So always wearing a different hat. I guess it depends on the day. If you're in the real estate entrepreneurial family setup, I have to wear whatever hat is most urgent for that day. So my
Well,
day's not so typical, right?
okay.
Yeah.
Well, you are the boss. Being an entrepreneur is, I guess, a 24/7
Yes.
thing, no?
It's very hard to shut off. It's kind of always there. So you have to be conscious, because I also want to be present for my family or my friends, or be able to kind of maybe not make it zero, but tone it down. The work mind, to kind of tone it down so that I can be fully present for the other parts of my life, and I'm able to do that naman. But it's never quite disappears. There's always there at the back of your head. You're always thinking about things, and things are always there. But going back to the scriptures, so one of the things I've really tried to work on the past couple of years is really my spiritual side. I've always been a Catholic, and I've always had I would say an okay faith naman. But I always found that of all of the different aspects of my life, it's the one area that there was so much more that I could do. And so I've been working on it. So at night, before I sleep, my ritual is I'm always reading the scriptures, whatever is the mass readings for the day. And together with the meditation, that's how I end my day typically. Yeah.
Wow. And how has it been since you are becoming more spiritual, or more, I guess, having a relationship with God?
Yeah, maybe a part of that is also like what you said earlier, that people say you're always smiling, and I like to say I'm always positive. I think my close relationship to God has a lot to do with it as well, because when you have that relationship, it also fills you with so much joy.
Yeah. So how are you with your kids naman?
Yeah.
How would you describe yourself as a father? Trying to achieve a work-life balance.
Yeah. So I've been much more conscious, because unfortunately when you're super busy with work, time, and I talked about time and energy, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes those become challenging. My goal is to really spend most of my evenings at dinner at home with the boys, and then after dinner spend time with them, chatting, catching up, and it's been good. It's been good. I try to have a combination of being the father figure, but because they're boys, I also try to
Parang barkada lang.
I also try to be kind of cooler ng konti, di ba?
The cool dad.
I try.
Are you up to date with the
lingo?
terms? Yeah,
Yes.
with the lingo. My gosh.
But they hate it when I try to say it, because they say you're so cringe, Dad. So I have to, you want to be cool, but you want to try too hard, because it also,
Turn off.
Yeah.
Tama lang.
Yeah.
Tama
And
lang.
then we enjoy talaga doing things together. So as they grow up, they're getting more active in sports, in
Yeah.
fitness, which is great. And then traveling is also another thing that they love to do.
So they're that age pa that they go with mom and dad, ah?
Yeah.
Kasi dadating ang time.
I know. The
They
days
don't-
are numbered, right? So right now, yes, they're still
So you're
very
really
much, you know,
parang taking
with us.
advantage.
Yes, yes.
While they're not cringing yet.
yeah. And they have friends, but they still spend most of their time with us so far.
You mentioned that it was really your wife, then girlfriend,
Yeah.
who made you come back.
But my father also. So the tag team of my then girlfriend and my father to get me back was I could not.
Yeah.
Between my father and my girlfriend, surrender na ako talaga, di ba? So
And I was just saying, because she's a dermatologist, look
Yeah.
at your skin.
it's one of the perks.
Are
I
you a
guess.
guinea pig in her
You
mga
know,
machines?
I do go. I don't go that often.
Okay.
So I go maybe twice a year lang. And then she tells me, oh, you have to come to the clinic na you're overdue. So then I'm going to come. Yeah, I'm very fortunate that she does take care of me and that she has all of this stuff in her clinic to help us to look young and fresh. Help us keeping looking young and fresh.
I recall a little cuento you were saying when we were in Anya about how you started out as friends, really.
Yeah.
Diba she was your parang best friend? Or?
I was her prom date.
Ah,
So when Anna was
okay.
going to her prom, we were set up by a mutual friend. I was her prom date. And we just met for the prom for me to be her date, not knowing that many years later
Kayo rin
we would
pala.
end up together and then would eventually get married, right? So can you imagine? I was her prom date in 1997.
Oh. How do you support each other? Is marriage a partner? How do you see it?
You know, we're very lucky, I guess, because we super get along. I mean, we're like synced. We're very aligned. So we rarely have arguments. We rarely fight. We share the same very even temperament. We're both very reasonable. So, you know, while other couples go through so much challenges, our married life has been fairly smooth sailing. I have to say, very smooth sailing. We haven't had a lot of big issues or fights or challenges. We tend to agree on almost most things with a little bit of discussion, and I think it's
why.
give and take. It's give and take also.
Maybe you really have to take a close look at your prom date because that might be
You
just
never
the
know,
right
right?
person for you.
You never know. Yeah, you never know.
Usapang Bilyonaryo, we'll be right back.
Good morning, everyone! I just want to say I'm so happy. Out in Duckworth.
I'm Paolo Belisari. Let's get you up to speed with some news that you could use right now.
I'm Ann Ces Oreña-Drilon. Let's go kickstart this brand new week with good vibes, great company, and unstoppable energy.
Happy Wednesday, I'm Monique Tuzon, and your mornings are always more fun with us.
Rise and shine, beautiful people.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Only here on...
It's a beautiful day.
Ito po si Father Nono.
Ako po si Father Fiel Pareha.
Ako si Risa Singson Kaupeng.
Kape at pandasal na po tayo. Ito po si Cardinal Chito Tagle.
How do you feel when when you see your buildings?
Happy. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a sense of fulfillment.
You're still young.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you've already made a difference.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Para kang nanganak, di ba?
Yeah, exactly. Multiple times.
So now that you have these 7 buildings, this portfolio, what's next for Neo?
You know, for us, it's really about always pushing the envelope. This is what I got from my dad. You always are trying to look at the future and not content with sort of just the typical box. We're always trying to push the envelope and see what we can do. So right now, so just to explain, there are 3 major buckets to Neo. There's the owner, which is owning assets. There's the developer, which is developing new projects, and there's the manager, which is providing management services. We are now actively trying to grow all three. The owner bucket is maybe acquiring new assets to manage. We feel there are a lot of building owners out there that maybe don't really like the headache of handling their assets and feel that maybe it would be better to work with a partner like Neo who can run these buildings for us better. Plus, we have the experience of sustainability, so we can get the building to be better quality, better performing, more sustainable. So hopefully that will continue to grow as well as a business.
So you do manage other buildings?
Yes. We have 2 buildings of SM that we manage for the property management side, 1 e-com and 2 e-com. We also have Times Plaza, which is another building partly owned by us but with other partners.
Times Plaza is located
UN Corner Taft.
And then the 1 eco and 2
Is
eco is in MOA.
In Pasay.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which brings me to how SM Investments became an investor partner.
We're joint partners. Yeah, different. We have different
50-50?
ownership. We have different ownership depending on the building.
What made you come together?
So
who expressed interest first?
So the story goes, we were developing our buildings in Bonifacio in a very rapid way, and we ran out of capital. Because when you develop office buildings, if you can borrow money, you still have to put in capital, right? And when you're doing multiple projects at the same time, you find out that your capital becomes very constrained.
Okay.
So we had to bring in a partner to provide us additional capital to complete the buildings. So that's when we partnered with Citigroup Property Investors, which was a private equity fund of Citibank. They bought into the properties, bought into the buildings, and they became our partner. And we used their funds to complete the buildings and also to develop new buildings, right? And then over time, because they were a private equity fund, they have to exit also because they have to give a return naman to their investors as a
and
fund,
they
right?
sold to SM?
And they sold to SM, yes. So Citigroup Property Investors became Apollo, another private equity during global financial crisis, and then they in turn sold to SM, and SM took over their position, and SM now became our partner.
Okay. Are they an active partner?
Yes.
How so?
It's been a fantastic partnership with the SM Group. We really appreciate, we've been partners for more than 10 years already. The partnership works like this. No? They really give us the freedom to manage and run the business as we have been doing it, but they always look for opportunities to provide value. So they said, where can we help? And very often, as a smaller-ish company, we don't have the resources, let's say, for tax or for managing, cash. These are things that they are experts at. And so sometimes we will lean on them for support, and they are very, very supportive, helping us where we need the help. And then also, I think in terms of strategic direction, we work really with them as partners. Even if they're majority in some of the buildings, they treat us like an equal partner. And it's been a fantastic relationship. We look forward to growing that relationship and doing much more under the Neo brand together with SM into the future.
There are 3 personalities, if we may call it that, of Neo, or
Yes.
3 buckets.
3 buckets, yes.
As owner, what do you have in store?
In terms of the ownership bucket, we're really trying to see if we can acquire more assets.
I see.
Because the problem with development is it's a very long process. Diba?
Okay.
You have to get land, you have to design it, you have to build a building. It's a multi-year project. So for us, if you buy an existing building with existing tenants, then you can grow your portfolio much faster. Yes.
And are you looking in BGC? Where are you looking?
We're looking in BGC across Metro Manila. We're also looking outside of Metro Manila. I guess maybe our primary target cities would be Metro Manila and Cebu at this stage.
Because you're focused on office.
Correct.
Office buildings. And also, I do understand that eventually your dream is to be listed, to be...
Hopefully. Yeah, so I think for us, it really makes sense to do a real estate investment trust or REIT at some point. We want to see in terms of strategy and in terms of size, when would be the right size and the right time to look at it. So nothing definite yet. Yeah.
But in terms of a unique proposition, you have it, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, if we can be the greenest, most sustainable REIT in the future, that would be a dream.
That's a
Yes.
major selling point. I
Yes.
think not just locally but globally too, no?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yes. On a personal note, the REIT was my thesis in my master's program in Colombia. And when I got back, I was actually the part of the technical working group of the Philippine Stock Exchange in drafting and pushing for the REIT legislation. So the REIT for me is a brilliant structure that I think is good for the retail investors. It's the public market. It's good for developers. I think it's also good for the government because it spurs, growth and investment. So I think it's one of those big opportunities that I really hope we can pursue in the future.
Do you find that your portfolio, the NEO buildings, are chosen by a select group that are more sustainable minded?
I would say definitely.
Sustainability minded.
So most of our tenants, they're very, very demanding in terms of what they're looking for locations. So Bonifacio Global City is obviously a fantastic city to be in. And then at least within Bonifacio Global City, we offer good quality, very green, very sustainable buildings. And when I do a lot of the oculars myself, especially for the large tenants.
Okay.
And when I start to talk about all of our efforts in doing green buildings and talking about our tenant engagement community where we offer events for our tenants to promote their health and their well-being, and the different strategies we have put into the buildings to save on power, save on water, provide a conducive working environment, make sure the buildings are resilient, it really resonates with the tenants. I can see and I can feel a lot of the tenants, when we talk about these things matter to them.
What was the first building that you wanted to make green here?
So the first building is this building, Cignal. That was really the pilot partner for the Verde rating tool. It's this building we're in. Cignal was the pilot partner for the first ever Verde rating tool release.
Not
No,
NEO.
the others followed after for operations. Yeah.
Because this was new at that time.
This was
I
under
suppose.
construction.
Ayun.
Yes. So naihabol namin siya.
Okay.
Yes.
Yung mga luma, mahirap gawin.
Actually, challenging, but very doable. And in fact, that's what we want to also share as a message to the industry, that we have so many existing buildings that can get certified for green operations, green building operations. We call it Verde for operations. It's a great rating tool for all of our older buildings to see how we can make all of these older buildings greener and more sustainable. So pwede. Kaya. So Ces, when people ask me what is the greenest feature of, let's say, 6 and 7 NEO, I always say it's the curtain wall or the facade of the building. So what you see outside is a aluminum sunshade, which is meant to be the first line of defense in managing the amount of heat and glare that the building gets from the sun.
But it has holes.
It has holes because what we want is also visibility outside. So you want to have that feeling where people can have the beautiful view, but you want to control the heat that comes to the building. So the architects...
It absorbs the heat.
Yes, but you notice it's strategically placed. It's not all over the building, right? So the placement of the sunshades is based on the pattern of the sun, how the sun hits the building. And so it's optimally placed to give that, sort of maximum effect in terms of shading for the building. And then this curtain wall is a double glazed curtain wall system, which means 2 layers of glass with a special low E coating inside. So what happens is between the sunshade, this glass, and then normally there's going to be a high performance shade that tenants will have to install. The combination of those layers give you this ability to have beautiful views, but at the same time manage the amount of heat that comes into the building.
So efficient use of power.
Yeah. So what happens is you get a big benefit of beautiful views, lots of natural light for the people who will work here, but at the same time, a lot less heat. So you don't have to spend so much on your air conditioning.
Plus, on a design perspective, it looks nice.
And it also became the distinctive architectural feature.
Yeah,
right?
that's what you have there too.
Correct. So if you look at that, you have all of these sunshades which are really, spread out to the building.
Yeah.
It's a sustainable feature, but it also became the distinctive architectural feature
Parang
and
trademark.
personality of the buildings.
Are those mahal?
Yes, they're a little bit expensive because they're all aluminum so that they can weather the elements. And then we had to really engineer this to make sure that in the event of a severe storm, that they don't, fly off or don't, get damaged or cause damage, right?
But you would say that it also, how much less power do you need? Is there a computation for that?
So
because of
it
this?
depends on your using of my computation, right? So for our edge zero carbon, for example, and an advancing net zero, we are able to save 40 to 50% power compared to the typical building, let's say a typical benchmark building, with the designs and the initiatives we put across these buildings.
That's a great thing because 40%, right, of greenhouse emissions in
Comes
the
from our sector, yes.
world.
That's construction and real estate, correct. So
Is that a worldwide number or
that's
just
a worldwide number. So we are, if you're in the real estate sector, you are a major contributor. Yeah, because we are 40% of the global problem on greenhouse gas emissions, right? So the responsibility we have to take as developers and owners and managers of real estate is really quite important. One of the things that we pioneered, we are one of the first developers to use the VRF or variable refrigerant flow air conditioning systems. What we call this is it's almost like on-demand air conditioning. So before, in the older buildings, you used to have a centralized system that was all on and all off.
Right.
Which didn't allow you to have different operating hours or different types of use, diba?
Okay. Mali pala yung centralized na yan, ano?
Centralized can work if a lot of the people have the same working hours. That's why centralized is fantastic for, let's say, a shopping mall.
Okay.
Everything's on, everything's off. Or if it's an office where most of the office users are on the same schedule, then it can be very, very efficient. But if you have a lot of what we call diversity of use, then this system is one of the best because it allows you to manage actively the usage of the aircon.
Well, congratulations on walking your talk.
You charge it, it's just like loading a gasoline, except that here you don't have anything dripping on it and there's no smell.
Yeah.
You put it in, you set the car, and then it charges already. When you're done, you just put it back, you just insert it.
Do you drive an electric car?
I just bought one. My very first
Kasi
EV.
sabi ko parang test ito
Yeah.
Do you practice what you preach?
And I charge it here in a
building
in
that
an EV charger that is powered by renewable. In the
May
basement
fee?
of 7U. The first ever EV charging in a building is here.
Meralco. Pero wala na.
Because it was so long ago, at that time, wala pang may EVs. We were too early. So sometimes in these things also, my timing because you can be a little bit ahead. You can have the noble, pero parang sometimes the market forces, you have to kind of sasabayan mo. So now, so that's been renovated. We have a new charging facility there. We also have the charging in 7. Our goal is to roll it out across all of the buildings. So that we want every building to have electric vehicle charging
But
facilities.
parking is mahal, no, per hour? How much?
The only one for the public is here and in 5 The rest are all tenant parking naman.
But why did Shell want to brand it such?
Because Shell's going into this charging space also. They're going to have it in all of their mobility stations. That's why di na siya gas station, mobility station na. They're rebranding it because in the future, where you go to get gas, they'll all have EV chargers also. Because if you own a vehicle, di ba? Pwede ka may gas, pwede ka may electric. So the stations are all gonna be still stations, but yung iba, gasoline, yung iba,
So parang
electric.
pioneer din kayo sa... Shell is, I guess, testing.
Yeah, so this is the first Shell, what they call destination charger, that's powered by renewable. They have others, but they're still powered by regular power. That's why it's important. This was really a landmark for us kasi we really want to close that loop. Like you said, diba? If you take away the combustion of your engine, then dapat the power used to power your EV should also be renewable para kompleto siya. This park,
I love this part. Sige nga.
May kwento yung park na to. So this park, when Bonifacio had all of these parks, they were supposed to manage and design and build them all on their own. Pero their budget was limited. So we actually pioneered in partnership with Fort Bonifacio this idea of adopt a park. Sabi namin, we know you have limited
Okay.
budget, and then it costs money to
Okay.
design and to operate
Yeah.
and to
So you
maintain.
did this.
Yeah, so we said, if we adopt the park, will you give us the freedom to do it, do what we want in exchange for the commitment that we will shoulder the costs for the park. It's also a showcase for sustainability. So these pavers
Okay.
have recycled plastic in them. These are eco bricks, right? The water, when it rains, the water goes through. We have collecting drains and then a storage tank. So all of the landscaping here is watered with rainwater in the park, right?
And these are real. I was so
All real,
happy.
all real, all
to
real, all real,
know.
yes.
Of course, except the turf. Yeah,
This one kasi,
you need to. Eh. You need-
our consultant kasi, si Jeffrey who designed it, says, look, you don't have enough sunlight here kasi it's afternoon sun.
It will die.
It will die no matter what you do. So why don't you just do turf so that it stays green and it's easy to maintain. And don't worry, we have a lot of other real greenery naman around. This seat wall, that's supposed to be the melting polar ice caps. Yung kwento dyan, it's supposed to be
But
blue.
was that the one done by the brother
Jeffrey. No, this is done by Jeffrey Manuel.
Okay.
It was originally blue and white to show that it's melting ice caps. But then my dad's ex-partner, si Jacques, wanted it to be green, everything in the park to be green. So he changed the color to green. All of that is made from retazo tiles. So this stairs, this artwork that we have featured on the stairs, the reason we did that was we want to encourage people to walk. And the problem is Filipinos are lazy. So you have to do something that makes
To
people want
entice
to
them.
walk. So if you turn around and look now, you can see
Wow,
the pattern of the greenery. Only if you walk will you get to see and enjoy it, diba? So these are the little things that we try to kind of do creative, things to make the experience a little bit more interesting.
now.
All of the wood that you see here is from packaging material. All of this wood, dapat tapon na yan. We used all of these are all crate materials from the bench to this wood. Lahat yan, packing material na mga equipment that we just refinished and put in to give it a nice warm feel. They wanted to put aircon. I said, let's just do fans so that we have a lower power consumption. Not cold, but comfortable. Diba?
And besides, you don't linger here too long.
You don't
naman.
linger too long.
All right.
Let me open the door for you so you can try.
Thanks. Wow. Okay. How does it go off on naman also at the same time when there's no one here?
It detects the key. So when you approach the car
Okay.
opens,
Yeah.
everything turns on, and it's good to go. And then when you leave, it locks and then it turns itself off.
It does.
Yes.
Because there are other cars you have to turn off yourself and sometimes you forget. I
Yeah.
was told.
Yeah.
Because it's so quiet.
This is everything's automatic.
Wow, galing.
And then you have a lot of like cool features. Here pala.
And how long is
So
the...
it has an image of the car,
Okay.
and then if you're parking, it has a 360.
Wow.
So you know everything happening around you is there.
Does it self-drive, no?
No, but it has capability for future. In the Philippines, it has these little things are lidar.
Yeah.
In the future, it will be able to do that.
Wow. Well, congratulations on walking your talk.
Thank you. It's a nice toy.
Yeah.
It's a nice toy.
Wow. But how long can the battery last? Can you go up to Baguio
Yeah,
on
it's 400 kilometers. It'll tell you the range. Like now at 53%, you have a range of 219
okay,
kilometers.
malayo pa.
You charge it, it's just like loading a gasoline, except
Yeah.
that here you don't have anything dripping on
Yeah.
you, and there's no
Yeah.
smell.
Yeah.
You put it in, you set the car, and then it
Okay.
charges already. When you're done, you just put it back, you just insert it, and then it's done.
Okay. So for the public, it's free
For now.
for now.
Yes. So welcome to our office.
Nice.
Yes, so all of the team members are part of the management group. So the owner-developer technically doesn't have really. I mean, it's
much.
embedded in that group. Yeah. So everyone is part of the same management services company. Yeah.
This is yours.
This is my office.
Ah.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Diba? Nothing,
I
nothing
love
fancy. Yes.
still the nature. Who
So-
took these photographs?
So there was a fundraising during the pandemic, and this was offered as auction for sale. And then I went for it. It's pictures in China, done by a photographer friend of a friend.
Oh,
my gosh.
this is what I heard
That's
about
funny.
you. You love anime.
Yeah, yes, I actually do. Yeah,
Well, but
but that's a joke kasi they always ask me if I could be a superhero, which one, and I always said the Flash. Kasi if I could be super quick, I could accomplish and do much more. Kasi parang palagi akong nagmamadali. Kasi I have so much that I want to get done and I feel like I don't have enough hours in the day so speed would be the, if I had to ask for one superpower or gift, I'd say I'd like to be the Flash.
Malinaw na ang kinabukasan ng real estate ay nakasalalay sa pagiging sustainable nito. Raymond and Neo are leading the charge, demonstrating that green building practices will benefit the people and the planet. Ako po si Ces Oreña-Drilon. Stay tuned for our next episode as we explore the intriguing and insightful stories of bilyonaryos. Only here on Usapang Bilyonaryo.